Welcome back to Athens and welcome to part 2 of my Turboprop tour all the way across Greece. Yesterday when I arrived in the darkness I didn't actually notice that I have a balcony. Shall we go outside? The view is a bit limited, but nevertheless I think it's quite nice. And small world actually. I just had breakfast downstairs and at the table next to me there was a woman sitting who was apparently on my flight yesterday from Kefalonia through Zakynthos to Athens. It was quite an adventure yesterday. Check out part 1 if you haven't. And yesterday was also a bit rainy, like both in the Ionian Islands and here in Athens. But today the weather is quite beautiful, quite sunny. And what do we do in beautiful weather? Yes, we go flying. Today we're heading to the Dodecanese, a group of islands in the southeast. The Dodecanese consist of around 160 islands, some of which have an airport. It's going to be 5 flights, all of them on SKY Express. So I would say, let's take the metro to the airport and catch our flight. And there we are, past security at Athens Airport. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Athens Airport. Mostly it's very crowded. I mean, now I found like an empty gate area here, which is nice, but very often it's really crowded and a bit hard to navigate, actually. It feels kind of like a shopping mall with like a few gates scattered here and there. It's a bit confusing and actually it's one of my least favorite airports to transit through. But anyway, it was fast this morning. We are way too early. It is like 10:30 now. Flight will depart at 1 p.m.-ish. Also, they haven't announced the gate yet. They'll announce the gate like 1 hour before departure, but I think I have a nice spot to wait here. As I've mentioned before, today we are back on SKY Express, flying to the Dodecanese, the group of islands in the southeast of Greece, and as you may expect, I chose the weirdest routing I could possibly find. It's gonna be 5 flights today. We're first gonna fly from here in Athens to the island of Astypalaia, and then continue on the same aircraft, but on a different flight number, all the way to Rhodes, with 3 stops in between. We're going to fly from Astypalaia to the island of Leros, then continue to Kalymnos. From Kalymnos it will be on to Kos, and Kos to Rhodes. Swiss A220 coming in. Nice. The first 3 airports today will have very short runways. The runway at Astypalaia airport is only 989 meters long, and the next ones at Leros and Kalymnos are just over 1,000 meters long. So it will be a day of short runways. It will be on the ATR 42-500. 1,000 meters, as far as I know, is cutting it quite well for the ATR 42, but it shouldn't be much shorter than that. So it's definitely going to be some exciting flying today. But then once we get to Kos, it will be a 2,400 meter runway, and then in Rhodes it will be even 3,300 meters. But yeah, the first 3 airports are going to be quite exciting. Yeah, and then we're going to end the day in Rhodes and have a night there before continuing to another destination tomorrow. airborne out of Athens, runway 03 right. Yeah, I don't know, this morning it was all sunny and only a few clouds, but yeah, now it's like overcast. Anyway, we're heading towards Astypalaia now on another ATR 42500. This is SKY Express Tango Whiskey Oscar number 2, if you so well. Yesterday my first 2 flights were on Tango Echo November, number 10, so to say, and then the other 2 flights to Athens were on Sierra Index Ray number 6. So they seem to have a little bit of a system there. Yeah, but this one, number 2, is also like 28 years old, and just as in the other aircraft, the cabin looks a bit dated. You can see the cushions are kind of worn out. Yeah, and actually when I got to my seat I discovered that a previous passenger apparently decided to spill all his or her cookie crumbles all over the seat. There are only 14 other passengers on board, so the flight to Astypalaia is not even a third full, and I have a feeling that the other flights will be even less full. Flight time to Astypalaia is around 40-45 minutes. We're gonna approach from the southeast, so we have to pass the airfield first and then turn around due to the winds, but yeah, should be an exciting approach nevertheless. I think there's gonna be some service. Yesterday on the Athens flight they had like a drink service, they also handed out cookies. I think it's gonna be the same today.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from the flight agency on behalf of my SKY Express Airlines. I would like to welcome you aboard flight 010 from Athens Airport, destination the airport of Astypalaia. Our position to the left side of the aircraft, the island of Mykonos, to the right side Paros. In a minute we'll fly over the island of Naxos, commencing our descent for landing to Astypalaia. Estimating our landing in approximately 20 minutes. I would like to thank you once again for flying with SKY Express. We wish you a pleasant day. Have a great weekend. Take care, so long.
We have just started our descent into Astypalaia, and I realized after the captain made his announcement that I hadn't been pronouncing the name of the island wrongly. I said Astypalaia, but it's actually Astypalaia. Anyway, a bit bumpy now during the descent, but should be on the ground in about 15-20 minutes. I wish the window was not so scratched. Anyway, I'm sitting in row 10 here. On the next flights I'm gonna be in row 4. Maybe it's a bit better there. And actually I'm not entirely sure if I can stay on board the aircraft in Astypalaia. It is gonna be the same aircraft, and yesterday in Zakynthos it was like everyone could stay on board even though it was a different flight number. However, in my case I actually have different tickets. So I have one ticket from Athens to Astypalaia, and then a separate ticket from Astypalaia to Rhodes. So I imagine I may have to exit the aircraft and reboard so that I can scan my boarding pass for the next flights.
Those inclined for. Moreover, please remember to check the stowage big zip pockets where any personal items or valuables.
Yeah, welcome to the island of Astypalaia. Turns out everyone had to leave the aircraft because it's now like a different flight. I mean, the same aircraft will continue to Rhodes, but it's a different flight number, so essentially it's a different flight. Yeah, but you can go directly to the waiting area. You don't have to pass security again. That's good. Boarding for the next flight should be in about 20-30 minutes. And then it's gonna be 4 flights all the way to Rhodes. The gate agent here insisted that she gives me a printed boarding pass. I checked it online, so I have a mobile boarding pass. But for some reason, she really wanted to give me a printed boarding pass. Yeah, apart from that, there's a bathroom, and you can also get like a cup of water if you want, and that's pretty much it. It's a bit rainy, even here in Astypalaia. I don't think the weather's gonna improve much until Rhodes, but we'll see if we get some views. Back on board, the Sierra X-Ray Tango Whiskey Oscar bound for Leros now. There's a bit of a delay because apparently there is a lot of rain in Leros. So the pilot came around to the waiting area and told the 6 passengers, yeah, there's 6 passengers on the flight, that they will try to land in Leros and Kalymnos. If it doesn't work, if there's too much rain, like too little visibility, they will go to Kos to refuel and then just make the hop to Rhodes. So let's see if we actually get to land in Leros. For me it doesn't matter, but for the other people who actually want to go to Leros, it's a bit of a pity really. Airborne out of Astypalaia, runway 33. Man, just before we went off blocks it started raining quite heavily, and like just when we became airborne you could see like all the water flowing around the window. Yeah, but now it actually looks so good. Cruising towards Leros now, should be only a 10-minute flight, and I think we're only at like 3,000 feet or something. It's really not high. By the way, the flight attendant saw me filming the empty part of the cabin in front. I mean, I don't film any persons, that's not what I do, so I was just filming the empty part, but still she didn't really like it. She said like I shouldn't film inside, but just like outside. I don't know. I liked yesterday's flight attendant more, but today's flight attendant is a bit... Anyway, we're coming closer to Leros, and let's see if we can land there or not. Safely landed in Leros. It's really very rainy outside. Actually, the next passengers or the next passenger is already boarding. I think there's only one joining. Last flight was very short, 16 minutes. I think the next flight to Kalymnos will be even shorter. And since we do have a bit of a delay, let's get going. Yeah, boarding is completed. 4 people had left here in Leros and only 2 people joined, so there are now 4 other passengers in the whole ATR. It's pretty empty. And we left rainy Leros behind, heading to possibly also rainy Kalymnos. Yeah, Leros airport seems to be quite challenging actually, because actually at the southern end of the runway I saw some like hills sort of, and we landed towards the south on runway 14. like against the wind. So I think we're already in the descent. It's really like the shortest flight. Yeah, but then we departed out of runway 32 like with the wind. So I don't know. Maybe it's only possible to fly into the airport from the north and also depart to the north, but I don't know.
Thank you. Welcome to Kalymnos.
Sitting around here in Kalymnos. We caught up time, so we're actually on time again. We were never really late, just like 10 minutes. Yep, but should be off very soon for our next flight to course. Kalymnos seems to be a very interesting airport, very challenging. It sits on top of a hill, and like for a while you think you're still high, but then suddenly the runway appears beneath you. I checked the geography of this island, and I think it's really like the only place you can build an airport here. There's really not much space anywhere else. But yeah, seems to be very interesting flying in this region. And the new passengers are boarding, so let's get ready to fly to course. Airborne out of Kalymnos runway 10 this time, so the other direction. Kalymnos is a fascinating airport. I really need to go back there sometime. And also the island seems to be quite nice for like hiking maybe. We are on our way to course now, and flight time is only like 10-15 minutes. Should be starting our descent soon, and until then we have some nice views.
Would like to thank you for flying SKY Express. Remember to pay range of Blizzard DVD. No.
Arrived here at Kos Airport. Interestingly, everyone had to disembark, but in the bus there were like different sections, sort of one section for arriving passengers and one section for transiting passengers, and then the bus dropped the passengers at like different locations. Yeah, I guess they just want to clean the aircraft in between. That's why everyone has to get off, but yeah, we're on time anyway. And I think boarding is starting. Welcome back on board on our final flight to Rhodes. There are 9 other passengers on this leg, so it's just as busy as the others. Yeah, we're all ready and should be leaving soon for Rhodes. And the sun is setting in the distance. Airborne out of course runway 14, departure towards the southeast, heading more or less directly towards Rhodes. We departed course spot on time and should be on time arrival into Rhodes as well. You may be asking, like, if there are only that many passengers, how can that be a viable route? Well, first of all, I believe in summer this route is much busier. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's much busier in summer. Yeah, but now it's like off season, so there are no tourists traveling here really, it's just locals. But also these routes around the islands here are PSO routes. PSO stands for Public Service Obligations. Essentially what it means is the government, or either the Greek government or the EU, will pay a certain amount of subsidies for airlines to operate these routes because they would otherwise not be economically viable, especially in the winter season. I mean, there are like 10 passengers on board. It would not make sense for SKY Express to operate this route independently, so they do get subsidies just so that the connectivity between the islands is ensured. On this trip I'm actually only flying PSO routes, so the one from Corfu to Zakynthos, and then also Zakynthos to Athens, Athens to Astypalaia, and then Astypalaia all the way to Rhodes. Those are all PSO routes and they're all subsidized. That's why the prices that I paid were actually not that high. Yeah, now we've already started our descent into Rhodes and we should be on the ground in a couple of minutes.
Welcome to Rhodes. We'd like to thank you for flying SKY Express. Member of the airline, wish you a pleasant night.
And there we are in the Rhodes Palace Hotel. It's quite nice, it's a 5-star hotel, very clean, very spacious actually. Didn't expect it to be that spacious because I kind of just booked the cheapest room they had and I booked it only like a week or 2 ago for €74. That's quite okay. And I also have a view maybe? No view, but they do have a pool. Nice. I mean, probably not gonna use the pool because tomorrow I'm off to my next flight. I'm gonna make a cut here because tomorrow is kind of a different story. We are already quite far in the southeast here in Rhodes, but there is one island group that is even further southeast, and that is where I'm heading tomorrow. If you like today's SKY Express adventure, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you like. Other than that, I will see you for the next flight tomorrow. Until then, enjoy your travels.